Hare Krishna. My name is Bhakti Siddhanta Das. I'm from New York. And I was walking on the street in New York in '66 and Prabhupada walked by me. Unfortunately, I didn't say anything, so I walked by. I joined later Miami. And I was told that Prabhupada was feeling sick, so I was working at Fate and I made Changing Bodies display 3 times. One time, a small model in Prabhupada was asked if it was asked to Prabhupada, do you want this for your room? And Prabhupada summed up the whole philosophy in 2 words, my room? So he had no rooms, he had no place, he was a wandering mendicant, but he had everything, he had the greatest opulence. And so from Fate, I migrated to India at the request of one of my godbrothers, and he said, if you want to see Prabhupada live, you better go now. So we came across from LA to New York in the first Tulsi, and we were worshiping Tulsi along the way, getting to East Light. So in any case, we ended up in Vrindavan, and so I had made a big donation to Prabhupada because I cashed out my life insurance policy. And Tamal Krishna says, well, we'll use it here, don't worry. So it was meant for his kitchen. Then I was inquired by different devotees to go different places. An artist joins and it's like something that's usable. And so I asked him, what should I do? He said, well, I'll take care of it. I'll ask Tamal. Tamal said, I'll talk to Prabhupada and he can answer your problem, I'm sure. And so I got darshan right here in this room next to the garden here. And Prabhupada was just in the room by himself. Oh no, he wasn't by himself. The room was packed, but it seemed like he was alone. And so I was introduced by Tamal, this is your Bhakti Siddhanta Das, and the whole room started laughing. Because who's this guy with this name? And so he told me either Mayapur or Vrindavan. First choice was Mayapur because I was a Fate devotee making dioramas. But also he read my mind, and the mind was, I'll go anywhere, but I just got here in Vrindavan. So he said, well, stay here. Probably could read your mind, no problem. And so I was pinned here, and I've been here 37 years. Now, as far as Mayapur, I arrived in the early 80s in Mayapur. At that time, there was no managers. It was very loose management because there was nobody here. And so I was in charge of both samadhis, Vrindavan and Mayapur, and I was a sightseer. I go back and forth on the sites and just work on both samadhis, help with the management. And so at that time, Ranjit turned over the keys, and here's the checkbook. You're in charge of the Prabhupada Samadhi. And so I was running that for a while, and George Harrison shows up. And so I was on that tour with him, and I was in charge of the Samadhi, so I talked about the Samadhi. And so I said, in that little cement mixer you see over there, this whole building is manifested. And so he looked at the cement mixer and he shook his head. Is that possible? Not only that, they carry it all up on the top of those what you see as platforms going up in bamboo on their heads. They carry little pans of cement that way. And so, and I asked if you would like Prabhupada, if we could put a diorama there showing the Beatles and Prabhupada. He said, no, don't do that, because I would like to come back here, and if you do that, I might not be able to return. Anyway, it never happened. So Prabhupada was encouraging us to get involved and stay in India. And so I did that. And then I got involved when I was told that actually now the big planetarium may start. And just after Prabhupada left, I started making drawings because I thought, well, these things are going to start happening. And so I started making a dome drawing without the knowledge of it being the first drawings on the dome was the repeat of what was going to be, what is in Washington, the Capitol building. And so Narayan saw the drawing and said, this is what Prabhupada wanted. He wanted a dome. And so then I go to Delhi and I meet with Ambarish and Bhavananda, Sadbhuj, and they confirmed that, and they saw the drawings I had. It echoed what they were doing. So I was already involved. And so then I got involved more, and before I know it, I was designing a lot of the compartments or components of the first concepts. So the first concepts were like, a composite of different ideas from different books, and Bhavananda engaged me to start making drawings, and I just started pouring out the drawings. And then we started picking and choosing, and some of the first concepts are still there in that building. And so as he matriculated, it get to a more final design, we started going into more detail, and finally he walked into the room and said, "Bhakti, what is this?" And he says, "Well, it's not finished yet." And so I made a joke, and he said, "We don't want to show anybody half-finished, a full half-finished painting." So I reminded him, I said, you said it. And so he walked out and came back, and a few more minutes it was finished. I said, "Okay, now we understand." Okay, so the drawings went on like that. Now I've been working on the 3 levels in the drum. So there's 3 levels that go around the base of the dome. And those 3 levels now are what I'm working on right now. It's Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It's Gopakumar taking this adventure from scrap, from just Govardhan Hill and Vrindavan to Goloka Vrindavan. And so that series of drawings, about 200 in the series, will be made into dioramas, and it goes around. It's not in feet, it's in kilometers. It's such a big dome area. So going around that dome 3 times, you'll get to see the whole parade of Gopakumar's ascension from this plane to the spiritual world, everything that happened in between it. And so at that time, when I was in the early 80s, I was in Mayapur, and I made a model of Prabhupada for the Samadhi. And I left it, I didn't think any more about it. I left it, it was in the room upstairs near the Prasadam Hall. And so then it turned into the Murti that's now in Samadhi. I didn't cast it, but it was just a model sitting there. And as things move along, now I'm going back to Mayapur and help with the final stages with some of the work and work on the Murti for the planetarium of Prabhupada. And we're introducing a whole new system that I learned here in India. We're doing bronze casting, and in Prabhupada's Samadhi you'll see so many panels now are done in lost wax. So at that time when we were doing lost wax, the process that's unknown to most of the Indians, there were 4 other people in India who knew the system. And one of the guys who engineered the new device, how to do it in a whole brand new way, came here and started helping us out. And by his assistance, we became really expert in this process. And so there was a camp here, there were 4 other bronze casters in India, and they all came for a camp here in Vrindavan. And so they were looking at our process and watching us how we do it. And so normally in a bronze casting in white hot metal, you're dressed in asbestos suit, goggles, and big thick shoes, because you're pouring white hot metal. If that touch of that metal, it goes right through your body. Okay, so we're getting ready to do the first pour, and these 2 guys that showed up from town to help us do the pouring, they had no shoes on, barefooted and gumshoe. That's all they had. And so they started doing the first pour. Now we worked out the whole system, got it down. When we opened that first mold, these guys, who were the other 4 casters, they came over to me and said, "Now we believe in God. Because if you can do this perfect detail, we got perfect detail all the way through every casting." He says, "Now there's got to be a God involved." So basically, from the very beginning, Prabhupada was involved in everything across the board. All the drawings that we do, all the concepts, is Prabhupada doing the building. We're instruments, and we're here only just to extend his energy. So the energy source is unlimited, and Prabhupada is certainly with us at every moment. And it's being designed by him. And so as we go along and see this thing manifest, I watch now, and I watch these drawings manifest in front of my eyes. I can't do this stuff. I mean, it's way beyond my capacity. But when I see things happening in front of I even see changes take place. So that the drawing is moving along, and all of a sudden it gets better by itself. And so as it goes on, more and more, we get to a point of being a well-oiled instrument. And the more we are, the better off the service, and the better the end-up production, the final end-up result will be something so fantastic. And so we're in the early stage of a city development in Maya. It's growing like fantastic, leaps and bounds. But that'll be a city in the future. If we see these videos, 50 years from now, and they'll think like archaic, where these guys started with nothing. And so when it ended up being such a magnificent finish, so the planetarium, when it does finish, it'll be the culmination of all the devotees around the world and their involvement and their push to help this thing manifest. And when it does manifest, Lord Chaitanya will manifest himself. He will be there with the Panchatattva. The whole deities, those altars are going to, you want to be there for that opening. wherever you are around the world, make sure you're there when that temple opens up. Because it'll be the moment of a lifetime. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Go Permanently, Lord Chaitanya Ki Jai.